folks, this is Gene Tiberio, and you're listening to Healing Outside the Box. This is episode 299, and I'm calling it the 411 on microfarming. Now, I was originally going to do a podcast episode on a review of the documentary Food Inc. 2 and a brief introductory bit on microfarming. But I switched stories, and my main story will be the microfarming. But first, as I like to say, I want to quickly go over the documentary Food Inc. 2 that I watched recently. Now, if you haven't seen Food Inc. 1, it's available on YouTube and many other places. But this is the sequel. Now, this follow-up makes some good points, but it falls into the category of more of the same. They go into detail about animal cruelty, a microbiome, and how important it is, and the hormonal effects of ultra-processed food. They spend a while on processed soybean oil that has found its way into grocery stores everywhere. And in restaurants, it's the #1 oil in the U.S. A study published in the journal Endocrinology demonstrated that genetically modified low linoleic acid soybean oil fed to mice found a profound effect on the hypothalamus of these mice. Here's a quote: "Your hypothalamus is key to your nervous system and hormones, which regulates emotions and your response to stress, regulating body weight, maintaining temperature, and more." End quote. And further down is another quote: "Hypothalamus issues are linked to Alzheimer's and other brain disorders." End quote. Furthermore, the researchers discovered that soybean oil has affected over 100 genes. 100 genes. I think most would agree that ultra-processed food is bad for us. The problem we still need to solve is what to do about it. I can recommend organic olive oil or safflower oil till the cows come home, but I know it's more expensive for families that are feeding children and other extended family members. Ultimately, all of those corn and soybean federal farm subsidies will have to flow towards organic and local farmers. For that, we need our legislators in the House, and we know who they are, to approve these changes. That last sentence may be a downer for most of us, considering the current atmosphere in Congress. I know, but we could literally lift a finger and type a letter to our local congressperson, or use those fingers in the ballot box this November. We can still vote in this country. So let's use our collective power for good, because we literally are what we eat. As for Food Inc. 2, you may be better off watching the first one again. It was better all around, although it still used the same scare tactics. Now, back to microfarming. I recently saw an article in The Guardian, and I'll put this in the show notes, that highlighted one woman's success story at changing her yard into a suburban microfarm. This woman signed up with an organization called Crop Swap LA, who helped her build her yard into an urban vegetable garden. Crop Swap LA grows food on unused spaces, creating sustainable green jobs and nutrient-rich food. This organization is one of many established to fight food insecurity and limit water usage. There are incentives built in by these organizations to encourage individuals to take part in these local programs. First, let's define microfarming. It's a method of farming that involves using small plots of land to grow crops efficiently. It's based on the idea of maximizing productivity on a limited amount of space. They use intensive planting methods, crop rotation, water conservation, companion planting, in other words, which two crops grow well together, and other sustainable farming practices. They've used technology to plant more efficiently, using less soil, less water, and less fertilizer. They also use natural repellents to scare away raccoons and other urban critters. Next, how is this all financed? The Microfarm program provides a risk management safety net for all commodities on the microfarm, and it's under one insurance policy. In 2014, under the Obama administration, the USDA started the Microfarm program, which rewards small local farmers with crop insurance and subsidies. There are also tax incentives for sustainability programs and reduced water bills with the water reservoir system to capture rainwater. And this Microfarm program is available in all 50 states, as is the Healthy Incentive Program, by the way, that gives $40 in free produce to all SNAP recipients who visit farmers markets. At first glance, this seems to be something that only Brooklyn and LA people would be excited about. But the truth is, as I see it, this could be a much more lucrative program in places like Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, and Louisiana, where they have long growing seasons and plenty of unused land. Why bother, you ask? Well, I can sum it up in 2 words. Free food. We all seem to be wrapped up in the rising cost of food, and we all seem to be wrapped up in that even in liberal Massachusetts. But there's nothing cheaper than free. The woman highlighted in the Guardian article produced 600 edible plants that can serve up to 50 families, and the government paid her to do it. If you're a member of her program, her food will be distributed to all members within 2 miles of the microfarm. That is literally farm to table. Another climate-preserving factor is that microfarming includes water recycling, and this is a big deal in California. A microfarm is estimated to save 92% of water compared to the water bill if that land was grass. This is because they have a scientific irrigation system to capture rainwater. The reservoir they use can hold over 600 gallons of water. They have built-in pumps and sprays that rotate and are timed to imitate natural rainfall. So sprayers rotate to imitate rainfall and have check valves to reduce leakage. Therefore, water is not wasted. Now let's look at the agricultural features. With microfarming, the planting, growing, and irrigation are all done sustainably. This could be done on a larger scale to feed the community, or on a smaller scale to feed the family. They usually have their own composting systems on site, or they have a deal with the city to utilize the community compost. And yes, our city of Salem here has a community compost, and I participated one year. We put out our pails on the street with our scraps. They pick it up weekly, and when the compost is done, you can go there with your shovels and have at it. So these microfarms have included regenerative methods for both the compost and the soils. They use something called garden socks or garden snakes for the planting. You can take a look at them if you Google gardensocks.com. They are basically just as you would imagine. They are long cylinders that can be as short as 4 feet or as long as 40 feet. You cut holes in the snake and plant your baby plants in the holes. Now, why garden socks? Well, these garden socks have a high-quality organic compost that reduces the possibility of plant pathogens that can affect the plants. The mixture is about half compost and half soil. And of course, with a smaller amount of soil, you need a smaller amount of irrigation. Also, it works like raised beds, as there is no maintenance for the pulling of weeds. There's also a loam mixed in that helps retain soil moisture, which is beneficial in the midsummer months. And this system will work better than the traditional if your area of the country happens to have bad soil, as Massachusetts does. So there is essentially no exposed soil, and they mulch around the garden socks to reduce weeds all around. With this system, if you have a small personal microfarm, you could even harvest as you go along. For example, with lettuce, you could pull and eat the outside leaves, keeping the inside growing. So everyone with a small patch of land can grow quite a few vegetables, fruits, and herbs. If you want to do it on a larger scale, there are options for a greenhouse for storage, seedlings, and microgreens. For example, you may know that broccoli sprouts and broccoli are excellent sources for gut health and brain health, and both will work with this microfarm system. So this particular program, called Crop Swap LA, is run out of Los Angeles, and they employ 20 staff, so it's a job creator. Volunteers help out, and trainees contribute to planting and construction, and then move on to other sites. But there also are similar programs popping up everywhere in urban areas. I feel like there is no reason to keep this from happening down south, where there are plenty of unused land, a long growing season, and a higher percentage of food deserts. This guy, Mike Garcia, and his team in LA led the irrigation and landscaping work while providing learning opportunities for trainees. In other words, part of their job is to train people in other communities to do the same thing and utilize the federal food grants. If homeowners participate, they can earn 5% of food harvested, so the homeowners can eat the food and also cash in. If you want to become a microfarmer officially, you will be insured by a federal farm insurance policy. The microfarm program provides a risk management safety net for all commodities on your farm under one insurance policy. So crop insurance is woven into this program as well. Whether you want to go small or go big, or just support your neighbors who want to become microfarmers, everybody wins. And I want to make this clear to everyone with kids. You'll be rewarding future generations with healthy brain food. And that, as convicted felon Martha Stewart would say, is a good thing. That's all I have for you today. Be well, and stay tuned next week for another episode of Healing Outside the Box.